Hey everyone, welcome. This is season 2, episode 10 of the Unofficial Official Story. I'm Jennifer, and I am happy that my old friend is our guest today, Zell Williams.
Hey guys, I'm Dwayne Perkins, and I'm an industry plant.
And I'm Koji, and I really wish I was an industry plant. I don't know why no one asked me. Well, I know
Right.
why, but we'll get into that.
So this is a podcast where we're going to tell you the official story. We look at paranormal, conspiracies, unexplained phenomena, cryptids, true crime, and by the end of the episode, we're going to tell you what really maybe happened. So in this episode, we're asking the question, is rapper Cardi B an industry plant? But first, we're going to introduce our very special guest, Zell Williams. Zell is an award-winning playwright and TV producer whose work has been developed and performed at the Public Theater in New York, Interact Theater in Philadelphia, and the Royal Court in London. And as a TV writer, he's worked on such shows as the Fox drama Next, NBC's Law & Order Special Victims Unit, BET's American Soul, and FreeForm's Good Trouble. He's currently a writer for season 2 of AMC's critically acclaimed Interview with a Vampire series. His play Diversity will have its world premiere on Broadway from the producers of Hadestown and The Piano Lesson with Samuel L. Jackson. So Zell is also a podcaster. He is the co-host of the Inner Cities podcast with author and attorney Tochi Onyebuchi for Highway Citizen Productions.
Great to be here. Honestly, I'm a fan of you guys' show. I'm a huge fan of Jennifer Field, who we went to school together, and yeah, I also, oddly enough, I have actually written a play about industry plants.
Oh, wow.
As I was doing the research for this, I was like, oh shit, that was a theme of that thing.
What was it called, and what was it about?
So the play is called The Urban Retreat, and it is about a unpublished, middle-aged, divorced public school teacher in Chicago who thinks he's about to have the chance to write his hit book, but actually he's been hired to help ghostwrite the memoir of a hip-hop megastar named Trench Deep. Trench also used to be one of his students, and it's this huge conversation about Black masculinity, Black art, and what counts as selling out or not. The thing about conspiracy theories that involve Black communities is that we've had so many actual conspiracies against us that sometimes things sound crazy, but actually they are rooted in truth. And like, if you listen to by the way, I'm not the first person to do this. You go back and you watch August Wilson's Piano Lesson, like put that on Netflix with Viola Davis and freaking Chadwick. You watch it. That's a play about an industry. That's a movie about an industry plant in the 1920s, like trying to sell his music to these white men to get in it. And so anyway, as I went down this rabbit hole, I was just like, my God, I thought, I was afraid I wasn't gonna have anything to say, but I'm really touched by this topic.
Did you always want to be a playwright, a writer, or is that something that came up more recently?
Absolutely not. And this is the honest to God truth. I grew up in Fresno, California in the Central Valley, and until I was 9 years old, wanted to be a Ghostbuster. That was my high aspiration. I thought you just have to move to New York because there is literally no place in America less like New York than Fresno, California. No disrespect to my hometown. But finally, somebody was like, oh, that's not real. You're not watching a documentary about busting, making them feel good. I did. I was like, what do these people do? And it's like, well, one of these people's a comedian. One of these people's a writer. One of these people's a director. And so for a long time, and trust me, I have let these aspirations go. Don't hate on me. I thought I wanted to be a comedian, and I was too scared to do like comedy. And then I thought like, well, I guess I want to be an actor. And then I started acting, and I was like, well, I'm not finding any plays that tell the kind of stories I want to tell. So I thought I'd be a director. And then I was like, well, that's still directing other people's stuff. And I finally just started right before I met Jen in college. I started writing plays in Stockton when I was going to a community college up there. And I went across the street to a Barnes and Noble, and there was this brand new play that had been published. And they don't publish plays. I don't know if you guys know this. Plays are not profitable at all. So they don't publish them that often unless you win a Pulitzer. And I go across the street, and there's this brand new play that on the cover had the cast was Mos Def and Don Cheadle. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like Black Star of Mos Def? And I read it, and it's Top Dog Underdog, and it's by Susan Laurie Parks. And it just really solidified like, oh shit, you can write about Black people today. It doesn't just have to be like, no disrespect. It doesn't just have to be August Wilson writing about like my parents and my grandparents. It doesn't just have to be like, Lorraine Hansberry doing Raisin in the Sun. There are stories to be told about what I am going through.
What's crazy is that You actually could have been a Ghostbuster, though. Like, now it's a real thing again.
I grew up and then I realized, oh my God, the Ghostbusters are really conservative. They aren't listening to the DEA. They don't give a fuck about you. They only care about their small business. Like, the Ghostbusters had some problems.
Right.
No, you're also a TV writer and producer. What's the biggest misconception they have about what you do?
Oh, misconception that it's fun. No. You know, it's funny. So I am a playwright originally, and back when I was, a baby playwright, it was the start of like the golden age of television, and it was the tail end of people being like, "Oh, you write for TV? You're a sellout." And then it was just, people, let's see, Jason Grote wrote for Mad Men, and freaking Rajiv Joseph was writing for like Nurse Jackie.
Mhm.
All of these playwrights who have like careers and Pulitzers just for like, yeah, no, we like to have healthcare and eventually pay off these student loans we paid to get good at this shit and maybe a child. And so the biggest misconception, I guess that's what it used to be, is that like if you were a playwright writing in TV, that you had sold out, which again, that's just us all. Like, I feel like every playwright is kind of like an industry plant in that way, because, we have this story of like, oh, we came from the streets in New York, or doing like storefront theater in Chicago, and nobody came out. And then I got discovered by, I don't know, Ron Howard, let's say. And now I work in TV. Yeah. So that would be the biggest misconception. Also, I would say the other misconception is because, so Jen, like I said, I've known Jen since we were in college together. I don't know. I won't give away how old we are, but like, it was a minute. It was a while ago. And I think that the other big misconception about like next year, when the play goes up, one of the things I'm already freaking out about is people being like, this TV writer coming to write plays. And it's like, no, that's not what it is. I was lentils and rice. I can't tell you how often that was dinner, because that was what I could afford. And I think the misconception there is that the path of how you get to where you are when people start to notice you is how they define you, I would say. And to that point, I'm straight with you. I did not respect Cardi B as much as I now currently do before researching for this podcast. She didn't get where she is the quote unquote conventional way, but you know what? Mad respect for where she is and how she did it and what it takes, because you know what she did? She sacrificed her body in some situations. She sacrificed her goals and like changed all that.
Yeah, let's get into this. So we're going to get this story straight about industry plants once and for all here on the Unofficial Official Story.
Let's do it.
Imagine a rapper writing lyrics in their basement for years. Okay, he makes his own songs in his garage. He or she gains a small but intense following. And after a lot of hard work and maybe a little bit of good luck, the right music executive hears their song and then bam, they have a song playing on every radio station and every Spotify playlist. Great story, right? This is like the music's version of the Hollywood dream. But what if it was all fake? Okay, this rapper is not writing lyrics in their basement or their garage for years, coming from the ground up. What if their success was preordained? In other words, what if they were industry plants?
I mean, do people really, really think that they come out of nowhere and they somehow make it and blow up?
Yes, people do. The short answer is yes. It's because people are not in the industry. Like Derek Liu, the actor, right? Or is it Luke? I always forget his last name. But like his backstory, they say Denzel discovered him in like a drugstore or some store on a lot. And it's like, if you don't know, you don't know, right? You know what I mean? And that's the hardest thing, is once you have any access to the industry, you don't want to shatter regular people's, civilians' sort of dreams and how they perceive things. You know, like,
Yeah.
you don't want to tell people that, like, oh, Storage Wars, they know what's in there already. You know what I mean?
No, wait, Dwayne, take that back, Dwayne. They don't know what's in there. Next, you're gonna tell me the Kardashians it's a scripted show.
Right. And wrestling is fake.
What?
There you go.
But what is an industry plant? We're referencing it. We need to, I guess, define it. According to an article we found on Complex, the link is in the show notes, they explain an industry plant in this way. An artist who is being groomed and developed away from the public eye by a label, only to be placed in a spotlight inorganically with a hit song or a moment. Here's another definition we found on a YouTube video titled The Real Truth About Industry Plants. Also link in the show notes. An artist who presents themselves as independent or self-made, but actually has the resources of some larger power, i.e. a label, backing them. The Real Truth video broke down two of the most common criteria for identifying an industry plant, and they are someone with the backing of a label, someone who had pre-existing connections or money through their family. The key part to know is that an artist's fame, success is not authentic and discredits any talent or hard work and insinuates that the artist in question is fake and merely a product of a highly successful marketing machine.
Okay, because we got to talk about those two things.
Yeah.
Y'all, I mean, I again, I'm a big fan of the show. I've heard you guys talk. I know you got a history in comedy. You've done things in the industry.
Yes.
And I remember when I told my mom for the first time that I got an agent, she just thought like, oh shit, it's a wrap. It's done. Like,
Right.
And I think like you say, a lot of people who aren't in the industry kind of think, oh, well, they're signed by a label, so obviously they're a millionaire now. And no, that's not how that goes. That is not even the first step. That's like maybe step 200 on 1,000 step.
And also, it's one of these things where it's like when I was reading the definition, right? Someone groomed away from the public eye. That's like literally every athlete. Like every athlete,
Yes.
you don't know who they are. They play high school, they play junior high school, whatever the case. I mean, now because of the internet, we have more access to these guys. But we didn't know who LeBron was until it was time for us to know who he was.
I'm always jealous of them though. With athletes, it's like, yo, if you happen to be 6'10" and can dunk this, like there's no disproving that. Like there's no, and I think the thing people confuse not liking an artist. They think, oh, I don't like this artist, but they're popular, thus they must be an industry plant. It's not like Taylor Swift can like qualitatively prove she's better than anybody, right?
Right.
It's an art. It's an art form. It's now if Taylor Swift could fucking dunk, then maybe we could have a conversation.
Crazy thing is, even in sports, though, it's different because, we can quantify some things, but also a lot of it is largely dependent on your situation. Like Tony Parker is going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer because he went to the right team who knew how to use him. Like LeBron was going to be a Hall of Famer anywhere he went. Tony Parker could have been a guy that was in the league just 3 years, and he's one of my favorite players,
My son, he's an elite baseball player. He's this little Asian kid, and he hits home runs. He hits like over 200 feet home runs as like a little kid. And it's amazing to me that when people look at him, they automatically discount him. Even they see what he does, and it's because he's this Asian kid. He doesn't look like a baseball player. He doesn't look like the kind of player that he is. And so I always tell him, these guys, like everyone's gonna discount you every step of the way.
I think you're absolutely, I think race plays something into this, which is real fascinating, but also because of like the incline of a career, because you can, even if you never see a kid in high school, you see them like in the Sweet 16 or something. Like, we've all been there's all this. I've been talking and excited to see Zion Williamson basically be who he's being this year for like 3 years now. And he was injured, I know. But like with artists, I think because when that thing does happen, when like you are at the right club on the right night and somebody happens to be not wanting to be at home and they saw you do a thing and they happen to be working on a project, it's like, oh yeah, you could totally be like number 3 in, Bad Boys Eternal.
You know who can determine if someone is an industry plant? Not someone behind their computer in Des Moines or wherever they are. It's actually people in the industry. Like if you're a comedian, right? And like, I've never heard of you, especially if you live in LA, or I've seen you and you're okay. And then boom, you're everywhere. I can make that call, but regular people can't make that call. I can say, ooh, that was a little weird.
Comedians and rappers are the fucking hardest on each other when it comes to this shit. Because you guys have all, I get it, because you work and you struggle and you scrimp to get there. And then you see this person like fucking leapfrog into space. But yeah, you're right. The industry will know.
Let me say also this, and then we'll move on, is that I teach screenwriting at a bunch of different places. And one of the things I always tell my students is this: the success of your project has almost nothing to do with you. Like, you just never know. Like, you could write like a book that's the most amazing book since, I don't know, like 1984. But it comes out on September 11th, 2001. And no one's fucking going to read that book. Right. All of a sudden, like, no one cares. Or you write a shitty book about vampires that could go outside. And all of a sudden, everyone in the world is reading this stupid book. And you're a terrible writer, by the way, Stephanie Meyer. I don't know. But like, and it becomes popular. I mean, like, God bless her. She became super successful.
That's important because like the important part of this is the industry part of it. Like not even the plant part. Because like, look, to your point, like if you have written like nothing but like Citizen Kane and it's never been made, and then one time you got drunk on like fucking gin and you were just like, I'm killing it this weekend, and you came out with a script that's like vampires versus John Wick and shit. Like you can't choose what a studio is looking for. They might pass over those 3 Citizen Kanes, and now you're the guy who wrote Vampires versus John Wick. That's on your gravestone.
And it's important to note that usually all these people anyone we explore as an industry plant has some modicum of talent, right? Like, and it's a little bit more subjective, but it's like NFL. Maybe you're not the best quarterback. Maybe the backup quarterback is better than you, but you're still an NFL quarterback. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
People are at home trying to figure out fairness. And I heard someone say this quote recently, and it's like, life isn't fair. Like, fair is where you go to see a pig with a ribbon on it. You know what I mean?
Where did the term industry plant come from? Once again, according to the same complex article we mentioned previously, it seems to have emerged through message board culture at the start of the 2010s.
Are industry plants real? Like most things found on the internet today, it depends on who you ask, but it is generally considered a conspiracy theory.
And why don't people like industry plants? So we found this great quote from a website called studybreaks.com, and we're going to put a link in the show notes, and it explains why people dislike industry plants so much. So there's like this desire for authenticity from musical acts that's been around for decades. Music listeners doubting the legitimacy of certain singers or bands found expression in the label poser, which we all know and is from the punk movement of the 70s and rap and hip hop artists from the 90s. So although past eras of music emphasize organically grown talent, Generation Z has demanded this quality more than ever before. Younger people are known for their insistence on more honesty from brands and general outspokenness. So these traits translate into their views on the entertainment they consume, which is then expressed on social media platforms.
Is that true though? Because like, let me just say, like Gen Z, y'all are walking around with recording equipment that like Steven Spielberg was the only one that had it when he was a child.
Right.
You not only that, but it's like you can put your shit out there right now. Like you don't need to like hopefully your dad is like some exec somewhere. Like you can throw that shit on TikTok right now. I feel like the second they see it, it's already part of the industry because it's on TikTok.
And also, I think people have to understand it's like inertia. Inertia is a thing. And so how much inertia do you generate before it just sort of takes on its own life? And I think the industry plant issue, it all depends on where they come into the process. Like, do they take you from your mother when you come out of the womb and start training you to dance and sing? You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Shove you into the Disney workshop. You're light skinned enough just to be perfect. No one knows where you come from.
And that's fine if there's some Dr. Moreau thing. You still have the talent, right?
That's why they're shutting down Splash Mountain, is they need more space to hold all of these non-specific ethnic children that they're going to release on the world now. It's just getting too much.
Oh my God.
It's like they go visit their real mom. Why did you give me up? I didn't know how to tap dance. Anyway. So if you get enough inertia going, then yeah, the machine will get behind you. There is a machine. It does get behind some people. It's just a matter of why it gets behind those people. But it's like wherever there's money, there's going to be some fuckery afoot. And you just have to accept it.
All of these websites, they leave out something real important that you're pointing out, which is like, you only become an industry plant once you are like uber successful.
Right.
If like people gave a fuck about quality, I always think like jazz would be the biggest music industry alive, because there's absolutely no, you watch a jazz concert, every single note is coming out of that person doing that thing right now. But like, there's no like pyrotechnics. There's no like dancers with like sharks and suits and everything. The thing that this always gets thrown around with is when you get like successful, because like there are people, we know people who like literally been in the industry grinding every day. They may not be rich, but they show ain't broke, and they're making it happen. They suddenly have an indie movie that gets picked up or something. It's like, oh fuck, well they were always in on the game. They knew what it was. They were working they were trying to lay down these tracks, playing like they was broke, and then they can leap out of it. It's like, it's weird.
Other than being inauthentic, what are some of the more nefarious implications of industry plants? The YouTube video, The Real Truth About Industry Plants, brings up some of the real issues of industry plants, and we're assuming they are true. The exploitation of young artists by large corporate labels, prioritization of profit over people, and sexism and bigotry that reflects in who becomes successful.
As you get older, you kind of realize how much people tolerated you when you were younger. And you kind of retroactively, you retroactively feel bad about it. And you're like, man, thank you for putting up with me.
I was a real asshole. I always like my mother could have strangled me to death at least 15 times. And I've been like, you know what? She earned it. I was asking.
It's also what you don't know. Even as a comic, like we have this sort of, we're kind of journalists in a sense, right? We try to decipher patterns and tell people about the patterns we see and point out things. But even there's still some things you don't see till you get older. Just follow the patterns. But some people are too young to even know the patterns, the patterns of like just how things go. Like musically, I hear a song, then I hear another song that sounds just like that song. But the second song gets way more pub than the first song did. They come out about 3 or 4 weeks apart. And you're like, man, someone decided that second song was going to be the song. Or you have people with certain names and the names repeat, like Nas and then Little Nas X, or Aaliyah, and there's an artist after Aaliyah with a super similar name. There's 2 singers called Robin S, and they both have a song called Show Me Love. This is a real thing.
Whatever happened to 4-Pac?
Right. There's a black Robin S, and she goes, if you're looking for devotion, you got to show me love.
Show me
There's
love.
a white Robin S about 5 years later.
What?
Show me love. Show me love.
I was thinking that one, which is sad, and I feel ashamed of myself.
I'm confused. I didn't know that there was 2.
Well, the second Robin S goes by something else now, but that's just the marketing of it. And you can't be mad at marketing. These people are it's all products, and they're just trying to, sell their products,
And we were talking about musicians. That's the other thing with like musicians is that like music is maybe the most intimate art form that does not involve mask and like key parties or something. Like it's really, you put it like in your ears, right? You literally put it in your ears and it goes directly into your brain. And I think there's something about that makes people really want to believe the person saying this has been through heartbreak or like has slang rock, whatever they're saying. Like I think for people, that kind of quality of like believing that this person is a source of it makes you feel like, oh, it's better that I listen. I'm a better person because I listen to this music. I listen to this Robin, not that Robin, because, whatever. And it's like, in some instances, it's like, well, yeah, that was Nirvana and it cost Kurt Cobain a lot. And then it's like in other instances, it's just like, you're just trying to have a good time.
Oh, exactly. And teenage angst is not anything new. Everything's been studied, dissected, and then as much as they can, they apply practices to the art form to benefit and make money. Like the Beatles, right? Greatest boy band ever. I remember watching the Beatles, like not live, of course, but there's videos of them getting off a plane when they first arrived in America, right? And all these screaming fans. This is pre-internet. And I'm going to curse here. I'm sorry. But how the fuck do all these people know the Beatles are landing on that plane at that time to show up with those signs?
That's a great
It's
point.
all staged. Doesn't mean they're not talented, right?
Yes.
It's staged. And so the real thing with the industry is who are the people who have their own thoughts? And if you can make those people your fans, they will bring more fans. And then they won't be your fan anymore because they'll be mad. But it's all about getting those first fans who are like impervious to the marketing.
I mean, the nefariousness is this, like, if they don't believe that you can, like, that you look like the kind of person that does, like, so for example, like they think, African-American men are dangerous or violent or strong. So that's why you do, like, that's why gangster rap was, but like the moment like an Asian guy does it, you're like, well, I don't think that he could, I don't think he could do that. And it plays on those kinds of stereotypes.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where like it goes wrong. It's like, yeah, like a white pretty girl could do that, but like a black African-American woman, that it comes off as different, and you can't do that. You have to be this. And I think that's where it kind of gets like a little, and it gets a little bit, wonky.
When industry plans go wrong.
Yeah, when industry plans go
Well,
wrong.
if you think about it like this, you think about like television in like the 30s, 40s, whatever, where the commercials are sort of this, they're hidden inside the program. And when we look at it, we're like, that's ridiculous. That's clearly a commercial. But people back then probably they weren't as savvy as we are.
They didn't know Bled Flintstone wasn't a fan of Winston cigarettes. He didn't find them smooth. Like, they had no idea what's
right. So if you think about it all as it's all a commercial, then it's like everyone's an industry plant in a sense. And these are commercials.
Yeah.
Like when Jay-Z said, give you bling like the Neptune. He said Motorola two-way page me. He was paid to say that line. Like two-way pages were this little blip. They were already obsolete before they came out. You know what I mean? Like there was a cell phone.
Exactly. Yeah. The cell phone was on the way.
We had a cell phone. It could text or was about to be able to text. And then they just said, let's just drop in this little two-way pager thingamajig and make a little fortune off of it. It's only going to be a thing for like a year, but everyone's going to be talking about it.
Once your favorite artist makes it, they will absolutely figure out a way to put the Kia Sportage into a rhyme if Kia's willing to cut a check. But like Koji, I mean, you bring up a really good point though, because if you think about it, industry plants. So when it comes to race, industry plants have been a thing basically as long as there have been entertainment industries. Because you think about like, I was watching Stormy Weather because again, I'm a million years old. I was watching Stormy Weather. It's got this great Cab Calloway's leading the band in there. And you just look at it and it's like, that motherfucker has a conked hair and he's just singing to all these white people, skidoo-doo-doo-doo. And then the Nicholas brothers, who are fucking amazing, do this huge tap dance around, like a tap dance that would like fucking kill online right now. And even they have like that, but like you're looking at it and you're going, this is Cab Calloway was one of the few people who could do that because he looked good and because he was willing to, put the hair back. And I think you have a lot of people actually, it's a part of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Again, I don't know why I'm hyping all the August but
we love him.
It's a part of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom where, people are talking about like Bessie Smith's cutting albums and Dola, and I was like, I don't care about Bessie. I was here before Bessie. And it's like, wow. Even back then, they're talking about like people who are willing to do the marketable thing to break into the industry and other artists calling them plants for that. I mean, really, it has been used not only to like solidify what is quote unquote real or legitimate or authentic in a culture, but also to push out what isn't. And like it has, a double-edged sword because like, yes, absolutely. Point out the fact that we shouldn't have to conk our hair. We shouldn't have to like change ourselves to fit into this world. But then also you get to the point where it's like the 90s. This is another reason why I don't think Gen Z is as committed to like realness as we were, is because like we needed a rapper to get shot. We needed him to get shot multiple times to believe anything. Right. Well, I understand it with these kids because they go through shooter drills. So you know what? Gen Z's seen enough. I take it back, Gen Z. You're fine. You're doing fantastic.
They're trying to be.
Don't
real.
be like us.
Here's a list of people who have been accused of being an industry plant: Lizzo, Post Malone, Billie Eilish. She wears big T-shirts, I think.
Is that all you know? Oh, she that big T-shirt girl. Oh, yeah. I know her.
There's a song called Billie Eilish. Some other guy has a song called Billie Eilish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, black T-shirt, Billie Eilish, and that's actually how she kind of came into my recollection because I had to look up.
Right,
what the fuck is he saying?
It's a cheat. People type in Billie Eilish and they hear your song. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
Khaled. I don't know which Khaled is that. DJ Khaled who never loses, or the other? Okay, there's a new. See the two names. So Chance the Rapper, Lil Nas X, Wiz Khalifa, 50 Cent. Wow, Kanye West, Travis Scott. Elaine, I don't know who Elaine is. All I know is Seinfeld. I don't know. Drake, Olivia Rodrigo, Adele, Dua Lipa, who I really like Dua Lipa, and Cardi B.
It was Azalea Banks who called out Cardi B. So she said she was an industry plant, LMAO, but sis took advantage of the opportunity and rode that bitch the fuck out, assembled the right team, seized the moment, and made herself a cultural mainstay. You have to respect it. So that's a backhanded compliment if I've ever heard one. But Azalea is always really outspoken.
One thing that many have noticed about the whole industry plant thing is that most of the artists called out as industry plants are women and people of color.
So what's going on here? Are industry plants a real thing? Is Cardi B an industry plant? Well, when we return, we're going to put our minds together and figure out what really maybe happened. Now that we've discussed the facts, let's give our theories.
Okay, well, I think you have to go on a case-by-case basis, but I will say, are industry plants a thing? Yes, but you shouldn't lose sleep over it because it's always been a thing. And it doesn't mean they're not talented. It's just another way to sort of like discredit or explain away things. Life isn't fair, and that's just it. Now, is Cardi B an industry plant? I would say yes, because we're saying people of color are being accused of being industry plants. The real question is, why would they be industry plants, right? And I think this is what people talk about in the barbershops and online and in the YouTube comments. And that is like, are you willing to sort of go along with the narrative that they have laid out before you? Like when you hear little girls singing Cardi B songs, it's fine if adults sing it, but if little girls are singing it, it taps into that theory of like they're trying to attack us at that base level just to get us off our grind. So I would say as an entertainer, I've been treated fairly, but I will say like me not drinking and me not like I'm not too much of I'm a capitalist, but not in a like I'm not gonna if I get a sitcom out, I won't buy a new car tomorrow, And I just think something about that way that I have, it makes me not a clear choice because the clear choice is whoever is going to push a narrative and or sell more widgets, whatever they're trying to sell. So I think if Cardi B was willing to like drug dudes to get money while she was stripping, something I think she said she's done, then she's going to play along and do anything you need her to do. And she has the talent, so we're going to put the money behind her.
So she was coding her way. She was telling the industry she was ready to be a plant by all the things that she had done before.
You could sell out and still not win if you don't have the right talent. And that's the worst. You just sold out for no reason. But I think for her, yeah, she basically was saying, listen, choose me. I'm going to play nice. Like we talked about this before, I think. Like The Rock, who's great. I don't think he does anything bad, but he's in 20 movies a year, If I was him, I'd be like, hey guys, I'm only doing 5 movies. That's why they won't pick me, because they know I'm only going to do 5 movies.
Exactly. That's the only reason you and The Rock aren't in the next podcast.
The only reason.
That, and you can only have one Dwayne.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna believe a movie with 2 Dwaynes. Like seriously.
So this is my theory. Okay. So first of all, let me mention I've never listened to Cardi B. I've never heard a single song by her. Hip hop died once. Once Pac died, hip hop died to me. So I didn't listen to anything. So I have never listened to her, so I can't say anything about her personally. But let me just say this: there is a group of individuals and who have tapped into the algorithm of our world, and they know that they could just move some number ones and zeros, and all of a sudden they're going to be successful. So these artists on this list, all of them, have either paid with their lives or money or soul sometimes, and given it to these guys who have manipulated the code, and for whatever reason their algorithms really reflect in people's heads. So like, to Zell, to your point of like, when people hear the music, it sticks with them, or when they watch a movie or whatever it is, it sticks with them because it's not just because it's good, but it's because the algorithm has been changed in that kind of matrixy, like we're all part of like a fake world kind of thing, or a computer simulation.
So like the coding is not only behind the algorithms of social media and anything viral, but perhaps even like the music itself.
The whole thing.
Like it's made to be get you hooked and fall for them.
Because it's just part of the algorithm of our lives, world. The artists that aren't successful, the artists that don't make it, whether hip hop or whatever, it's because they weren't willing to give up the thing that they were being asked to give up in order to become the success, the dream. That's why not everyone is successful.
Okay, so my theory is that there are no industry plants in terms of what I think an industry plant is, because when I think of that term, I think of something like malicious and deep state and nefarious, like it's totally just in it for the money, and that the person has been planted like a puppet, right? So that's how I take the term, and so therefore I don't believe that that's what's going on. But I do believe that, yes, people get opportunities, and it can be from money, it can be from connections, a label can develop an artist. And in that case, there's nothing wrong with that. So I wouldn't call that an industry plant though, right? I would just call that like, it's just part of business, or it's just sometimes how the business works, how an artist can succeed. So my theory is just that there's no industry plants, and that Cardi B, I mean, first of all, wasn't she on like some reality show before she was a rapper?
She was on Love and Hip Hop. Although that for me, that was like It is weird that you are a star before you're a rapper,
Yeah.
which I think plays into that for people. Like, they're like, "Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it go the other way? Shouldn't you be, like, working hard to perfect this craft, and then somebody's like, put a camera on you?"
I knew that she was already like known back then. So this whole thing that she's an industry plant, it just
Mhm.
means that maybe she's been, nurtured and developed a little bit. So yeah, I just think there's
Okay.
nothing wrong with getting produced and developed and helped along the way. And good for you if you have that.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I clearly was this touched a deep place with me. I'm gonna say, as much as I laid this out and had like thought about the history of like industry plants, and I do agree with Jen. I think some people confuse marketing with industry plant.
Yeah.
Netflix has a million shows out every year. They pick like 2 to highlight, and I'll just say, like, I think Mo is the best show Netflix has had in a very long time. I have never seen an advertisement for Mo. I can't stop seeing advertisements for Wednesday. I don't think Wednesday is an industry plan, but like Netflix has decided more people will watch Wednesday, and then some of those people will stick around to watch Mo, and that's kind of how it'll balance out. And I think that's kind of so. Yes, in that respect, I don't necessarily think that's an industry plant. I will say this: I have listened to a lot of Cardi B for the past 48-ish hours and done some research, and I actually do think she's an industry plant, but not music. I think she's a stripper plant. I think, because think about it. I started thinking about this the other day. When we were 2000 tap-ins, strippers are like the background in The Sopranos. Chris Rock has jokes about clear heels. Everybody's hating on strippers, right? And then what happens? All of a sudden, you have classes where it's like you're working out, and so
Yeah.
we get like rich white people going
Right.
to do
J-Lo's doing
stripping,
movies.
and it's like, well, that's not enough people.
Yes, right.
J-Lo's doing movies about strippers. And then all of a sudden they're like, look at this Black Latina lady in New York. She's loud, she's proud, she's out there. She's going to get way more people into this. And now look where we are. 20 years later, nobody's talking about clear hairs as a thing. It's like, it's part of like sexual identity. So thank you to the strip clubs of America for giving us Cardi B.
So she's an industry plant for strippers. Oh.
And to the collective municipal airport neighborhoods where all the strip clubs are located, I know you had a hand in this. You brought us this amazing artist who
That's great.
has been through so much, and now she's ruling the music game. So big ups on everybody. This is a step for sexual positivity brought to you by the strip club industry. Thank you.
I think that's great. Now,
That's good.
let me ask you: was it for recruitment or just to change our viewpoints about stripping?
All of it. Now it's like, you don't have to feel. First of all, everybody goes to the strip club now. Nobody feels like any kind of old, 20th century shame about it. So that's great. You got people like young women out there who are like, look at her. She's proud of her body. She's got work done. She don't care. Who knows it? And she's out there and like she's got a music career now. So you get more people in the seats. You get more people on the stages. It's just, it all comes together. It's a long game, but I think it's paying off.
So, if Cardi B was a plant for the stripping industry, was Lizzo a plant for sort of like the larger strippers? Yeah.
Now we're getting the big girls
The
out
big
here.
girl.
What? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, huh?
And now you don't even have to be. By the way, it's not even a shame anymore. If that's what you like, if you like some meat on it, there you go.
Right.
Here, it's taking steps in. By the end of this decade, I'm telling you, it's gonna be like Marvel, where there'll be like a stripper for every body type and size and neighborhood you could ever want.
Did you say
Right.
Marvel?
Exactly. It'll be like a Marvel movie where it's like you can't stop. In fact, this is how strip clubs get out of that whole airport bad neighborhood vibe. And if you don't have a strip club next to your elementary school, your neighborhood's gonna look lame.
Right.
Crazy.
People are gonna think you're a prude because, like, oh, what? You don't like your kids go to the strip club and see what they can do with their future? Oh my god, it's
That's
really-
great.
Oh my goodness.
And I feel like a lot of sort of secondary industries are being helped. Like negligee, makeup, the glitter people probably are very grateful because glitter wasn't moving.
It wasn't moving.
The dollar bill industry,
Oh, yeah.
because who has dollar bills except for weirdos going to the club?
Right.
Nobody.
That's true.
I was super worried about the glitter industry until now. Now I feel like
Right.
the world is gonna be okay. Right, the glitters are gonna be okay.
I have my Christmas stuff up. I'm never not gonna have glitter in this apartment ever again. It's sad.
We gave our theories. Now we're at the point in the show where we need to pick the unofficial official story, one that will for once and all answer this question. So what do you guys think? which theory do we want to go with?
Well, I think there's something to say about Koji's, and so I'm saying like there's some kind of, if there's a Venn diagram, Koji's circle hits on the truth. I don't know how much, but on some level it does. And we haven't even talked about shadow banning. Like we've talked about promoting certain people, but they also sort of de-promote other people, right?
That's true.
But in terms of our theories here that we've presented, I think Zell's is for me. I'm voting for Zell's. I think that's amazing, and the music is kind of made for strip clubs too, so it all feeds.
That's what I'm saying. She's giving back.
There's songs you hear on the radio that don't sound good, and you hear them in a strip club. You're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Honestly, that was my overwhelming thought when I was listening to like Cardi B back to back to back. I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I should be ordering another copy.
I need chicken wings
that I won't eat, but I will have them.
Right.
I don't know how many times I've watched my Instagram feed, my friends who are amazing women who are doing strip club dance classes, and they're putting their videos up. Right. And I'm just gonna say that once I heard your theories out, and I just thought to all those videos of all those people putting up those videos that you couldn't have done 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever, because that would look, then you'd be a stripper, which is a bad thing. But now like that exercise.
That's part of someone's life and expression, and more power to you. I'm just saying how it is. I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm just saying what it is. I see you, big stripper.
Do we think it's a coincidence if I'm correct here that she has a song called WAP that stands for wet ass pussy, but also WAP means white Anglo-Saxon Protestant? Coincidence? I don't think so.
It's funny. I would love that to be the truth. I would love if somebody was like, I want to make sure that whenever somebody Googles what, they don't see white people anymore. I would love that to be the case.
I like Zell's too, because that's kind of like, it sort of fits with her rise and the speculation around it. And yeah, it kind of goes way back that there was another reason why she got placed here for us to love.
Yeah. And then Zell, what about you? Are you going to vote for yours, or are you
is that uncouth? Is that not the thing to do on the unofficial? Official?
No, that's couth. That's completely couth. Yeah.
I'm one of those bad playwrights who's like, I feel no shame. I'm going to vote for mine, and I want you to know, if I ever get nominated for any award, I did vote for myself. That's not even a question.
Nice.
That is the official story. All right, we're going to take another break. And when we return, we'll find out if we'd want to be an industry plant in our fields. If at the beginning of our careers, some mysterious executive offered you the opportunity to be an industry plant, would you?
Yes, hands down, unquestionable. Okay, well, it comes with a caveat. If they don't want me to change, like I was doing this thing for arts institution, and the crazy thing about arts institutions is that we always talk about having no money, and then we invite you to like a literal opera house to talk about how hard it is to be a Black writer. But like it was this beautiful house, 5-bedroom house in the Hollywood Hills, and I was just joking with somebody. It's like, yo, I love what I do. But if you told me I had to run like Law and Order Stop and Frisk unit to have this house, I would kind of have to think about it, because like I think, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Dwayne earlier was saying, it's like, look, one of the things about what we do, any form of art, is that one of the hardest things to do is to get people to just believe in you and invest in you. And when I think of industry plants, oftentimes, look, I mean, there are a lot of popular people. I don't like a lot of popular. I have a lot of jazz albums. I'm an old man. There are a lot of popular musicians. I don't understand really why people are like, the music's good enough and nice enough, but it's not changing my life. If I could stay the person it's like, wait, what did Jay-Z say? Like, honestly, what it was, I can't remember. Oh God, I'm getting so old.
Oh, he said, truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense.
No, truthfully, I rhyme like Talib Kweli.
That's right.
Like, if it wasn't about money, he would be Talib Kweli. And I'm kind of like, I would like to remain Talib Kweli. Now you're making me regret it. I'm going to say yes, though, because when I was a young, brash man, I would say like, oh, I want to win a Pulitzer by the time I'm 30 because I was a young idiot. And that doesn't mean anything.
I don't know if they would let you set the terms. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
You might have to change.
That's okay. If I have to change, depends on how far that change is. Like, I'm not going to get myself in any industry trouble. But like, am I writing things as a black man in a dress? That's a bridge too far.
Hey Zell, I like what you did there, man. That was nice. You threaded that needle. You Drew Brees that. You threw that 50 yards through a tire, and I appreciate it.
If someone who did make a lot of money doing that wanted to produce something I wrote, let's talk about it. Let's get some coffee, baby. Okay, if I have to I guess I don't. I guess, yes, I will say I'm happy I didn't become an industry plant with my broke ass.
Well, the thing about this question is that it's almost like the boogeyman coming to your house and saying, do you want to help me scare other people, right? And then you're like, oh, shit, you're real? So my thing is, if they came to me and said, do you want to be an industry plant? And you think it's a meritocracy on some level. So if they came to me and said, do you want to be an industry plant? It depends, right? Because on one hand, I would think, oh, I deserve it. So yeah, it makes sense that you chose me. But on the other hand, I would be like, oh, this is not fair. And then if I knew to what extent it wasn't fair, maybe I don't even do comedy. Maybe I just go do some other industry. But then that industry is probably not fair either. So it's really, really hard to answer. I think the answer is no, because I don't think I would have agreed to the terms. And then the question is, then would I keep doing it? Because the reason we do this is you think you're going to reach some level of success. And then you go, okay, maybe the machine won't get behind me, but I can still make a living and I can be fine. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But if you think a game is rigged, then you shouldn't play the game, right?
Yeah.
But then again, if you love the game, then maybe you still play it and you're okay that it's rigged.
So for me, I think, as a young man, I don't think I would have, because, what were the opportunities for an Asian American in the 1980s and 90s? It was like 16 Candles, right? That was my opportunity. That kind of bullshit.
Right.
If I was a young man now, there's much more opportunity and there's much more things I could do. I have much I'm not so limited as an Asian American filmmaker, writer, whatever, as an artist, screenwriter. But back then, when I was a kid, what were the options I had? Mine is a yes with a caveat of what kind of opportunities were there really for somebody like me at that time? Back then, yeah. I was telling my kid, when I was, deciding to be a screenwriter back when I was in my 20s, I remember looking with my mom, I looked up information and I was like, are there screenwriters like me, that I wanted to be? And we couldn't find anybody really. And then my mom's like, this is not a viable career. There's nobody like this out there.
Wow.
What would an industry plan have given me?
I think you guys know what my answer to this question is. Yeah, of course I would accept. Yeah, you know me, I will do anything.
Well, don't say that though. I mean, that you wouldn't do anything.
Okay, yeah, okay. There has to be some kind of boundaries here, right?
Harvey Weinstein just sat up and was like, really, anything?
Yeah, pretty much, right?
I think you did out yourself as the actor in the group. Because I do feel we're all well, we have ideas and we stand by them and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I pretend to enjoy candy bars. I will, yes, I'll do that.
Speaking of Weinstein, it's funny because when all that stuff was going down, I remember thinking shit, put him in a room with me, try me. I was actually I would feel that out a little bit. I'd be curious I would have been, I don't know if I'd be down, but I'd be interested. But I have to like you if I do anything with you. But anyway, my point is yes, I would want to be, please give me opportunities. I want to be an industry plant because of course, an industry plant really just means they're just going to help you and just give you the connections and make you a star. And I'm not coming out of nowhere. I've been dreaming about this since I was a kid and working every day at it.
You know what's crazy? I was at a barbecue in Brooklyn, right? But I have a cousin. He's you could say a second cousin, right? My stepfather's first cousin, but I've known him my whole life, whatever, right? And, he's a good dude. He's tough. He's from Brooklyn. He's a light-skinned dude. And here's why that's important, because he's been in jail before and he's yoked, right? So he's probably tougher than most, because it's something in the Black community, sometimes light-skinned dudes have to be tougher. They have to go extra hard to not get, you know what I mean? So he's a good dude, but, he's not to be played with. And he was drunk at this barbecue and he was like, you've been doing comedy a long time. Don't you think you should have blown up by now?
Oh, damn.
He was drunk and it was one of those things where I calculated the probability of winning any kind of a fight, and it was really close to zero. So I just had to let him talk, and he didn't mean
drunk. You weren't drunk.
Yeah, he didn't mean any harm by it. Even drunk, he would have won. But then he said that, and I didn't feel like getting. He was too drunk for me to explain to him. Hey, you know what? I don't have a sitcom, but I'm doing fine. I pay all my bills. I tour the world, whatever the case. And then he was like, he said a famous comic who I won't say the famous comic, but he said, I used to sell Coke to this famous comic or like someone in his entourage, and this guy might be gay. And he said, if he wanted to touch your little thing, would you let him touch your little thing? I was like, first of all, I'm a grown man. I don't know where you get this little from. Let's get that out your mouth right now. But secondly, it was just a weird question because I think in that moment I realized he didn't know me as well as he thought he did, because like we're both from Brooklyn. It's like you're not the only one from Brooklyn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you got to have some sympathy, because that sounds to me like somebody who clearly didn't do something they wanted to do in their
Right.
youth.
That's exactly right.
And that's where that's coming from. Like they he's questioning how far you'll go to succeed because maybe he didn't. And maybe he didn't have a chance to do the things she did. But like at the same time, it's like that is fucked up. That is whew.
But I give him props for even thinking, maybe because he was in the streets a little bit, thinking beyond what the normal people think. Like knowing that there's something there. It may not be that thing, but there's something there other than just your talent. He called me not talented enough, but then in a way he acknowledged that I was talented enough, because he was like, you got to do this other thing. That's what all the other people do. I don't know. It's just weird.
Dwayne, let me just say, I would have been willing to sleep my way to the top. I mean, if beautiful women were like, hey,
beautiful women,
I'll give you $100 million to make this script, and like all you have to do is have sex with me, I'd be like, okay. I could.
Okay.
That's the caveat.
I wouldn't even have sex with a woman for it. That's just a stepping stone, because that's just to test the waters and get you closer to doing something else.
Yeah, and I ended up at this retreat in Ojai because occasionally I like to treat myself like an old white woman.
Right.
It was a weird thing because it was sort of a gift from a friend, and I didn't realize it until I was there, but it was kind of sort of a B&B. And I was alone, and I happened to be there, and there was we're not telling stories in the street, but like there was a actor who had a show, is popular, and they were there with their partner, and we just started talking about theater, and they had to spend time in New York. I had went to NYU, and so like they asked, it was January, and so like the theater Broadway had just reopened, and they asked about like life in the theater and plays, and I was like, oh well, it's really hard, and we're gonna see how it comes back, but some things well, and basically they got to this point where it's like, well, they didn't say this, but they were kind of hinting like, well, if you are good, things will ultimately work out for you. And this person had a show that lasted a good few seasons, very popular. They were seeing, it's funny, your cousin, excuse me, sees the world from the side of like people working up, which is like when you are working up, you do acknowledge the fact that like, again, it's literally one night you could be somewhere and somebody shows up and sees you do your thing.
Right.
Or like somebody picks up this thing. And then when you're on the other side of that, you have to tell yourself, oh, no, I am the greatest.
Absolutely.
So it's nice that your cousin, like he's acknowledging that truth.
Yeah, exactly. And as a comic, what happens a lot is you get off stage, and this is not only my story. This is every comic has the same story. And Zell, you're really funny. If you did comedy, you would have the same story as well. You get off stage at a club, the Chuckle Hut in, Idaho or whatever, and people come up to you and they go, you were so funny. I was there last week and I saw fill in the blank. You were funnier than that guy. And sometimes that's just expectations because they paid twice as much to see that guy. But other times it's sort of like, yeah, that guy isn't funnier than all the other comics. He's just the one with the show. And he's funny, don't get me wrong, but the truth of it.
That unfairness is where I think industry plant becomes like just the easy paste upon label.
Exactly.
Because like when you were talking about it, it's like, well, no, they were like, oh, well, it's somebody whose family is like, no, that's nepotism. That is a real problem. And then they were like, well, no, it's somebody who's bought their way into the industry. And it's like, no, that's privilege. That's a whole other problem.
Right.
But like, yeah, it's to your point about that. It's like, I think it's useless to focus on the industry plant. I will say, if you get the sense that somebody is an industry plant, maybe take it back and just focus that attention on someone you think should be where that person is. Buy another copy of that person's album. Buy another.
Exactly.
If you are just like ride or die for Azalea Banks, buy 2 copies of Azalea Banks' album. Her record producer will notice it, and then she will be up.
Zell, why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
I am a co-host of the Inner Cities podcast with my very good friend and author, and not my lawyer, but a lawyer, Tochi Onyebuchi. And we are 2 Black men who find ourselves in the precarious state of the world and are trying to understand how this bullshit keeps going on. So if you want to hear 2 writers talk about politics, news, culture, video games is one thing we often find ourselves talking about, movies, and also like we talk about because we're two people trying it, and so we do talk about what it is to try to have a life in this industry as two progressive men of color. So Inner Cities, look for it wherever you get podcasts.
Thank you, Zell, for coming on today. And please tell people where we can follow you, social media, website, anything like that.
As long as it exists, I'm on Twitter at A Zell Will, AZELLWILL, and on Instagram mostly, A Zell Will. If you want to see pictures of a dog, because I am a playwright, so I am kind of antisocial, so I don't share everything. But you can follow us and listen to the show Inner Cities, and also please, for the love of God, watch the 99% on Rotten Tomatoes interview with the vampire on AMC and AMC Plus, featuring Jacob Anderson as the vampire Louis de Pontulac, who you may know as Grey Worm from Game of Thrones, to a retelling of the classic novels by Anne Rice in a way that is exciting and new.
And thank you all so much for listening. There are almost 3 million podcasts out there, so we're so honored you've chosen ours to listen to. Thank you for tuning in today. Check out our website, unofficialofficialstory.com. We got our show notes there. You can hear our past episodes, all the links. And be sure to come back next month because we're going to find out the answer to the question, did the Clintons kill Kobe Bryant? I mean, wow. That is so out there.
They've killed everybody.
Right.
I mean, here's a question for you guys. Okay, I'm in the middle of doing research for that episode. How many people do you think that they've been linked to killing? Just number wise. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna say 3. I'm gonna put it at 3 to 6.
I'd say 10.
They're so mean to them. What, 100?
56 is the number.
That is terrible.
People from like Anthony Bourdain, Kobe Bryant, Ruth Ginsburg, even former Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe.
Oh my God, what?
And then and then all the people from Arkansas, like Vince Foster, obviously is like the big one that like started this whole thing a long time ago. But anybody who's died in the last like 10 years, it's Clinton. It's the Clintons, either Hillary or Bill, one of those two. Like anyway,
Eddie White.
Wow.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Zell, and thank you everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Great episode. Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
one.